do some quick introductions. Well, welcome everyone. This is an information session on the Academy on the first college year, and we are very pleased to have you all with us today. My name is Steph Foote, and I'm the Vice President for Teaching, Learning, and Evidence-Based Practices at the Gardner Institute, and I am one of the facilitators for this particular academy. I'm joined today by some of my wonderful colleagues, Dr. Felita Williams. Dr. Williams, would you like to say hi?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Foote. I just want to welcome everyone, and I hope we can answer all of your questions in this info session. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Williams. And I'm also joined today by Brittany Connor, who is managing the waiting room and also the recording, and Katie Locke, who's our Senior Director for Marketing and Communication, and she will be presenting some of the information, but staying off camera because her internet is unstable and she's traveling. So with that, we'll go ahead and begin. I know some of you may not be familiar with the work of the Gardner Institute, so I thought it'd be helpful to put a slide in to include our mission statement. We are a 26-year-old plus organization that is nonprofit, and we're located geographically in the Western North Carolina area, although we're geographically distributed. In fact, none of us right now are in Western North Carolina. Some of us are in North Carolina, but we're in other states and other parts of the country. So we have a very distributed staff, but geographically we have a home base there at Western North Carolina. So our institution works with organizations, colleges and universities of all different types across the United States. And we've worked with some internationally to support student success, to make sure specifically that students not only have access to higher education, but also have the opportunity to earn a credential. So that's really our mission. And we do that in lots of different ways. We're going to focus on one of the ways we help support institutions through the Academy on the first college year. But later at the end of the session, we'll share a little snippet of information about some of the other services that we offer at the Gardner Institute. My good colleague Katie Locke put in the chat that we would welcome any of your questions. So feel free to post those at any point, and I'll be very happy to answer them. So Dr. Williams and I have already introduced ourselves. We have some others on our team of facilitators. We have Dr. Cindy Kane and Dr. Sarah Stein-Koch. So the four of us serve as the primary facilitators for this academy. We have one other colleague, Dr. Brent Drake, who lends his expertise in institutional research and data in this particular academy. So he comes in as a guest in one of our sessions as well. So this is very much a team effort. So first, before we give you details, more details about the Academy, I'd like to start with a little bit of foundation and framing about this opportunity. So on the screen, if you can see the screen, on the left-hand side, there's a paragraph that says preface. This is from a book that was published in 1989, and it's one of the foundational books about the first college year. It's called The Freshman Year Experience. Some of you may have read it. It's out of publication now, but you can pick up a secondhand copy of it if you're interested. One of the authors was one of our founders. Actually, two of the authors are our founders, John Gardner and Betsy Barefoot. They make the et al. Part of Upcraft and et al. But what I want to draw your attention to in the preface is something that I think is very striking. So if you look at it, the last sentence says, because retention research tell us that the first year of college is crucial to college success. We need to know more about who freshmen are and why they stay or leave. Now, even though this was written in 1989, which is long before my first year of college, it still resonates, I think, with the work that we do with first year students, because we still many times don't know why it is that our first year students stay or leave. And in fact, a lot of the time we don't even know details about who these students are. So there's still a compelling need. And the opportunity here in this academy is to dig into that. So to gather and investigate data that you can use not only in the academy, but later on to better understand who your first year students are and why they choose to stay or leave. So this is about their retention, but it's a very crucial aspect of the first year. So understanding what's happening in this year that's either causing students to be retained or not. Are students feeling a sense of belonging? Are they connecting to faculty and staff? Are they succeeding in the courses they're taking? What's happening to them that might help us in terms of our design and delivery for the first year. Now, on the right-hand side of the screen, there's an even older publication. So this one is probably published before any of us were born here, but it's still very relevant. This is a publication that came out in 1928, and the title of it is The Construction of Orientation Courses for College Freshmen. And I draw your attention to this because sometimes we think of the work that we do in the first year as being sort of emerging. Like this is something that's just happened. We're just focusing on the first year. But these problems of practice, retaining first year students, helping them to be successful, to connect to the social and academic networks that they need to succeed is not a new problem. This is something that's been investigated for many, many years. In this publication, it documents the work within the University of California system that was focused on the first year and specifically orientation courses, which at that time was the name for first year seminars. So these are courses that were designed and first offered at the late 1800s to help first year students adjust to and navigate through the first college year. And this particular publication documents some of that work. It's one of the earliest publications about these courses. So this isn't a new problem, but what is new are some of the complexities, the nuances within the identities of our first year students. But there are also things that we can understand from the history as well. So in this academy, we bring that all together and encourage you to dig deep into your own institutional data to get to know more about your first year students and to get to know them too. So we don't have time in 4 or 5 weeks to do all of that, but we help to build the structure so that you can carry this out. So you'll identify something to focus on to help support the success of your first year students. So now I want to ask you all, if you will, to indulge me and to share your why for this. So why is it that you're here? What sort of problems are you trying to solve? What is the compelling reason that's bringing you here? So what is your why for this work? I'll give you a few moments to think about that. And if you are willing, please put that in the chat and we'll talk about your responses in just a few moments. And I will say, if your why is too long to write, then we could also give you permission to unmute yourself if you would like to speak it instead of writing it. Just let me know. Okay, I see a few whys popping up in the chat. I'm going to read them for those who might be watching this recording. So we have a comment. I'm here because I'm always looking for ways to strengthen our student success program, especially during a period of lower enrollment and retention challenges. And I would imagine that probably others in the audience, either those who are with us now or watching this recording, could relate to this. This is definitely a problem that many of us are experiencing now. So how is it that we can support students that we have enrolled and increase those numbers of students, first year students who are retained? Okay, another comment. We are trying to help students feel like they belong in college and how to not only ensure retention, but even more important, help them thrive and find their purpose while spending a few years with us. I was literally just before this session working on a workshop that I'm doing on Friday, and I was writing about thriving. And I think that this is a very, very important aspiration for us. We want students to feel as though they belong, but also we want them to not just be successful, like just passing, but to find ways to thrive. So to have those fulfilling experiences that lead them to personal, academic levels of satisfaction. So they feel engaged, they feel successful, they feel like they can belong. They really feel like this is for them. It's very fulfilling. Another comment, my why is all in the name of student success for sure. Students are the heartbeat of what we do, and leaning more into their needs will help us to be a more student-ready campus. And I love this because too often we think about helping students to be college ready. And several years ago, Tia McNair and Associates wrote a book about becoming a college or a student ready college. And in it, they're attempting to reframe our thinking about student success. And I found that book to be very compelling because, again, often we're thinking about sort of a deficit ideology. And in this case, we're empowering students and us and rethinking the ways in which we support and foster student success. I love that. Thank you so much. And then we have another one. I work with some of our lowest achieving students, and I've noticed that we are having more and more students who need or will need a student-ready university. Absolutely. I think if ever there was a time, now is that time for us to become more student-ready. So keep these coming. I love all of these. I will share with you really briefly a little bit about my why. I hope I won't discredit myself, but my first year of college was a monumental challenge for me as a student. And ultimately, I was not successful. I had a 1.7 GPA at the end of my first semester, and I had like a 1.75 at the end of my second semester. I was at an institution where there was a 2.0 requirement to remain in good academic standing. I was academically dismissed. For many reasons, I was given a second chance, not at that institution, but at another institution, for which I will forever be grateful. It was from that moment at age 18 and 19 that I realized I had to do something different, but also I found the passion that I've had my entire adulthood now to help serving first year students and fostering first year student success. That's taken a lot of different roles in my life. I've done a lot of different things to help fulfill that passion that I have. And this is one of them. So thank you all for sharing your why and for joining me today for this session. Oh, and thank you. There are others who have had similar types of academic challenges. So thank you for sharing that as well. It makes me feel much better. I remember the first time I shared that actually in a job talk that I gave when I was interviewing for a faculty position, and I came home and told my husband about it, and he said, "Well, that might have been a mistake," but it wasn't. But it took a lot of time for me to get to a place where I felt comfortable enough, sharing the challenges that I heard. So thank you all for doing the same. So a little bit about the Academy. All of us are drawn to this as facilitators for many different reasons, but what we are trying to accomplish is universal. We want to help you all to think about the ways in which you can design for first year student success. So you will, if you choose to participate with us, bring others from your institution and create a team that will go through this experience with us. And we will look at some of the foundational research, but also some of the more contemporary research and examples that help us to better understand what's happening in the first year and how we can design for the students that we have. And at the end of that, you will have what we call a plan to plan. So it's an initial document that lays out, the kind of work that you will do. So you'll identify a focus and figure out how it is that you'll kind of move that forward at your institution. So the next step at your institution would be to create a plan for whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. We'll talk more in just a few minutes about the work that institutions have done with us in the Academy and what that's led to. But that's the general overview and what you'll be leaving with. Because we have four main facilitators, we'll have very personal connections with you all. So we'll have an opportunity to advise and give you feedback while you're in the Academy and even afterwards about your plan. So that way we can hopefully help you to think through some of the challenges and also the resources and types of considerations you might need as you move forward to create a plan. So as I mentioned, the final deliverable is that plan to plan. So as you're preparing the plan to plan, you're doing a bit of an audit. So you're looking at some of the data and information that you have available. you're doing a bit of a landscape analysis to see what's already being offered, and then crafting this initial idea of what you might focus on in terms of the development of the plan. On the left-hand side of the screen, we've listed some of the outcomes. So what I want to mention here, I know you all can take a look at these at your leisure, is that there is a balance between some of the foundational aspects of the first year, so looking at some of the theory, research, and practice literature, and then also sharing some of the contemporary examples. So looking not only at, what's been done previously, but what's being done currently, what some of the changes are, the challenges, and thinking through, how to design something that isn't like plug and play, but to be very responsive to the needs of your first year students at your particular institution. You'll also, I think very importantly, identify areas where you need to build capacity. So where is it that you have a need to get more folks involved or to do more, to find more resources, be it, human capacity or even financial capacity. And then sometimes, what that involves is redirecting resources. So thinking about how you can streamline and to expand, to be able to scale up to offer the services or programs to more students. So all of that, is something to consider. And what I love about this academy is that we're looking at this from a range of different perspectives. We're looking at the curricular and the co-curricular development of students, programs, services that support students. So we're looking at it from a number of different angles, and again, from the foundational research and literature to some of the more recent practice examples. So a little bit about your team. I mentioned that you will bring a team to this virtual academy that we have designed. Your team should have at least 3 to 5 members. You can have a few more if you would like to. And ultimately, we want anyone who cares about the first college year to be involved. But I know that's a bit general. So more specifically about the kinds of roles that you might consider to comprise your team. You might look at faculty who are teaching a first year seminar course or gateway courses. So these are the foundational courses that many students take in the first or second year at your institution. You might also look at the first year program leaders and staff or learning community leaders and staff if you have them at your institution. I would also encourage you very strongly to think about involving your research, institutional research staff, if they have the capacity to be involved, because oftentimes they have data that can be very helpful to the work that you will be doing, not only in this academy, but the work that will follow. And having them involved and engaged can be very useful because they know about the data sources that are out there that might be able to help you answer some of these questions. And I will say, from my personal experience, many, many years ago, when I was designing a first year experience at an institution that had none, that the most powerful partnership I formed very early on was with an institutional research director. And believe it or not, he and I are still good friends all these many years later. He has a very fancy title. He's a VP at another institution, but we have a very close relationship that began because of the work that I was doing with the first year. And I really needed that partnership because I needed the institutional data that I did not have access to. Chief academic officers and staff, students as well, like if you have peer leaders or peer mentors, student success leaders and staff, and then deans and department heads and first year enrollment staff or admissions staff can be very helpful to have on the team as well. So a little bit about the work that's been done. Institutions that have worked with us in this academy have done lots and lots of different things. Some of them have come to us to rethink their first year seminar. The first year seminar is one of the more common elements in the constellation of first year experience programs and services. Many of them have come to us thinking they want to redesign that or they want to recast that course. So it maybe is credit bearing or is offered for more credits, or it's letter graded or taught by faculty, or has a different type of a focus. So we've had a lot of institutions that have come to us with that particular focus. I worked with one of those institutions, actually worked with two of those institutions the last time we taught this, offered this particular academy. And each of them took a very different approach because they were both very different institutions, but they came out with something that was quite remarkable. And in a short period of time after the academy, for one institution, it was literally about a month after the academy ended, they had a plan in place and were moving forward to redesign their seminar. We also have some institutions that have come to us because they realize that they have a lot of things happening for the first year students at their institution, but they want to design something that would be offered to all. So thinking about how to scale up, how to develop capacity, also looking at how to coordinate existing programs and structures, so things that are all over the place, having that sort of more universal coordination to make sure that all students experience the same sort of welcome and opportunities for engagement within the first year. There's some institutions that have worked with us to expand their offerings beyond the first semester of the first year. So looking into the second semester and then also thinking about expanding into the transfer year as well. A lot of institutions have been working with us around creating a sense of belonging and helping students to see the connections that exist between all of the different elements of the first year. I worked with an institution that was in our academy at first and then moved into one of our processes who worked on that specifically. They created a beautiful image. Once they figured it all out, they had this really great image that they put out there to students and to faculty and staff that helped communicate what they were trying to accomplish and how everything was connected. And it was really amazing because very concisely they were able to communicate what they were trying to achieve in the first year through this illustration that they created. And they had students help them with that particular illustration. So let me pause here to see what questions or comments you have about the Academy. So either about the process that we use, about the deliverable, about what others have done. And in just a few minutes, we're going to get into the details about how to apply, the cost, and then share with you the meeting dates and times because we have a series of synchronous meetings. But let's see what questions you have about what I've shared so far. All right, I'm not seeing anything yet in the chat, so folks may be contemplating this and may need some more time to figure out what they are curious about, or maybe everything is clear to this point. But what I'd like to do now is to hand it over to my good colleague, Katie Locke, who is going to talk about the next steps if you're interested in engaging with us. Katie?
Thanks a lot, Steph. So I just want to give a little bit of an overview on how you can become involved. I want to start off by saying if you are part of our transformation cohort, the part about the fees does not apply to you because they're already covered in the fees you pay for the overall process. If you are interested in proceeding, and we really hope you are, we have a short application. I put quotes around that because really what it is an opportunity for us to understand your why as a team and to make sure that it's a good fit for the academy. So we have the synchronous dates here along with on this slide the link to where that application is, and the fees are listed over here on the right side, and they're based on your undergraduate enrollment as reported to College Navigator. And we can always take those fees and split them into 2 fiscal years if that can make it more easier for you to join us. So we never want money to be the reason somebody doesn't engage with us because we really like to work and support your work.
Thank you, Katie. Before we move on to the next slide, I want to answer a very common question. It hasn't popped up yet, but I always get asked this. Are the meetings recorded? And yes, they are. So we record portions of the meetings. There are portions like breakout rooms that we don't record, but we record the main portions of the sessions. Each session will have a breakout opportunity. So you will, at least one, there may be two breakouts. So in the session, there's some information that we share kind of in a mini lecture. And then there's an opportunity for interaction. Then there is often sort of inter-group or inter-team opportunity for interaction. And then you have some team time. So it's pretty dynamic, but we record the main information and post that in our learning management system, Brightspace, where we also include lots of readings and resources. Not everything about the first year, but a lot of the foundational information that you would be interested in potentially. And then, of course, as we learn more about your team and about your why, we make some personalization, sharing resources that will be and examples that will be relevant specifically to you and to what you're interested in and your context. All right. And Katie, I think this one is yours too.
Yes, thanks, Steph. And one thing I did want to make clear about the fees is that the fees are per institution, not per individual. So you pay one fee for your institution to participate, and then you have, as Steph said, ideally between 3 and 5. If you want to go a little bit higher than that, we can accommodate that too. And in these info sessions, we always like to provide sort of a list of the different things that we do, the different ways to engage with us, because sometimes we find people may find that they're in a session that's not exactly what they're looking for. And so we have all these other things. I'm also very willing to have a conversation and help make sure that we get you into the right academy or community. You can email me at the info@gardnerinstitute.org email address. Those come to me, and if I can't answer your questions, I'll get you in touch with the person who can. Thanks, Steph.
Thank you so much, Katie. And now we just have an opportunity for a discussion and to answer any questions if there are any. This is the web address, the direct link to get to our information about the Academy of the First College Year. As I mentioned at the onset, we will send a copy of these slides and the session recording to you, and we encourage you to share those with other colleagues that might be interested in this. So if you please feel free to distribute that widely, and then you can learn more about the Academy on this page. I'm going to go ahead and stop the share. And I think at this point, Brittany, we can also turn off the recording if that's okay with you. And then we'll answer any questions.